Welcome back. We're now on to our next session, and I'm very pleased to have His Excellency Omran Sharaf, who is the Assistant Minister of Advanced Science and Technology from the UAE. He originally trained as an electrical engineer in Virginia in America, but then he went and did a second degree at the Korea Advanced Institute of Technology before becoming one of the key managers on the technical side of the mission for Mars. And having done that with credit, which I think was done, was it last year or the year before, he is now working in the ministry on a slightly wider brief. So in our conversation, we will begin by talking about the specific mission to Mars and what it has helped with the soft power of the UAE, and then we'll slightly broaden it. Obviously, I don't want to try and expose him to areas that he has not been involved with, but he represents a cadre of technocrats in the UAE who are busy developing the country in all sorts of different ways. And one of the ways that the UAE is developing very rapidly, as we have heard, is in soft power. Now, we have been doing this study for 6 years. Throughout that 6-year period, we have seen the UAE's performance progressively strengthen, but as you heard, progress is relatively slow in soft power because it takes a while for people to change their perceptions and their opinions. But gradually, bit by bit, the UAE has been climbing up the table. And I thought it was very interesting talking to Secretary Kerry that he spontaneously praised what the UAE has been doing and saying it was far ahead of its other peers in the Gulf. Clearly, the UAE has been committed to doing this for a long time. Now, one of the things that it's very easy to forget is that the UAE is an extremely new country. It has been around for less than 60 years, having escaped from the British Empire and been established as an independent state. It's quite easy to forget that. It's achieved wonders. And so I think it's true that it relates to the quality of leadership. And we heard again about leadership earlier on. It's all about leadership. Do you have a good leader? Do they have a vision? Do they implement it? Where are we going? Sadly, when we were talking about Trump, the general view is he's not a great leader, but there are maybe one or two redeeming factors. I think where you look at a country like the UAE, it has got very inspired leadership. And so I'm pleased to say that we will now have a conversation. That is my introduction. This is one of the rising stars, and you can see that it's number 10 in our table. I would be surprised if over the next 10 or 20 years it doesn't rise further, given the incredibly interesting things it's doing in a whole range of sectors. So with that, I'd like to ask Your Excellency to come and join me on the stage. Thank you. So, well, you heard my introduction, which is obviously your CV. I tried to keep it as short as possible. I think one of the interesting things about a country like the UAE is that it's a relatively small country and it's got a relatively small population, but it has huge opportunities. And you have obviously been one of the lucky beneficiaries of that. You've been through your science career and now you're a minister. Would you like to just briefly talk about the nature of opportunities in science and education and so on that are available in a place like the UAE?
First of all, thank you, David, for having me here and for allowing us to share the experience of the UAE when it comes to building our science and tech ecosystem and how that actually played directly in some areas and indirectly in others when it comes to actually building our soft power influence and capabilities that actually helped us achieve our vision, not just for the UAE, but for the region and for the globe. So the UAE has determined a long time ago, since 2006, the importance of having a competitive, innovative, knowledge-based economy. And to be able to compete, it has to be based on a certain set of skills, which will provide our economy with new opportunities in the future to be able to compete with economic powers globally. And the government determined that science and technology is that area to do that. And what it did is it used space sector as an accelerator, and the space program as an accelerator to build the set of skills, the infrastructure, the ecosystem, the science and tech community in the UAE to prepare that competitive S&T sector that we need for the future of our economy, for the sustainable development of the UAE, to address our future challenges when it comes to different areas, whether it's economic or water security or food security related and much more. So that was the vision of the UAE. And with that space program, and a whole new kind of set of programs that came under the space program that influenced and changed our academic sector, our industrial sector, the mindset of the Emirati youth, the mindset of the Arab youth, the vision for the region and the way that we can approach things and build a sustained kind of ecosystem, not just in the UAE, but around us, that helps us thrive and grow in the future.
So what do you think the chief impacts were of the mission to Mars in terms of recognition for the UAE? Was it mainly at the consumer, domestic level, people around the world know that you're doing this? Or was it more at a kind of institutional, technological level? So you've influenced academics and other engineers to realize that UAE is, or is it the world, or is it both?
So it's a difficult question to answer, actually. I think there's no one exact big achievement. I think we have multiple big achievements that we got throughout the Emirates Mars mission. The first one is the changing the mindset of the Emirati youth and encouraging them to go into STEM and kind of igniting that interest in science and technology and also expedite the development of our science technology sector. Because of the Emirates Mars mission, a federal entity was established to be in charge of our space program in the UAE. Because of the Emirates Mars mission, a council of scientists was established. A ministry focused on advanced science and technology was established. An academy for scientists was established. Those were all byproducts of the Emirates Mars mission. Curriculums changed. The university started new programs that are science focused. In the past, we were only focusing on engineering. But again, if you want to be competitive, you need to have the scientists to come up with the new discoveries and the engineers convert those discoveries into products. So that's from the UAE point of view. But then when it comes to the region, the UAE through the Mars mission did kind of set the standards high for the region. A message to the Arab youth, to the countries in the region, that if the UAE is able to reach Mars in less than 50 years, a country that has more than 200 nationalities living in it, and every single person in the UAE contributed in putting UAE's name around Mars, then you can do much more. A region that has more than 100 million youth in it. So after the Mars mission, we've noticed and we saw how different nations in the region started their space programs, started their STEM programs, focusing on science and tech. Right. That happened. The UAE was involved in building capacity when it comes to actually building spacecraft with countries in the region. We've worked with different ones, whether it's Bahrain, Kuwait, and others, and it's an ongoing effort. Globally, through the Emirates Mars mission, the UAE changed the way that such missions get conducted. We did not follow the golden rules of the famous space agencies around the world. We came up with our own golden rules. But why we were able to do that is because we didn't look at it as a competition. We looked at it as a collaboration. Usually nations that go to Mars do things on their own. For us, we said, no, we're going to collaborate. The Prime Minister himself said to us, don't start from scratch, start where others ended. So we had 450 people working on the mission, 200 Emiratis, 150 from our knowledge transfer partners, which is basically University of Colorado Boulder, Arizona State University, and University of California, Berkeley. And we had 100 subcontractors from around the world, all worked together to deliver the Emirates Mars mission, and we delivered it in 6 years. Mm-hmm. Missions like this usually take 10 to 12 years. We came up with a new system architecture, not a traditional one. We came up with a selective redundancy architecture, which is usually, nations don't do that. And we delivered the mission for only $200 million, which is considered quite relatively low compared to other countries.
So what do you think the developments will be that come from that? Will it be, you obviously did your education outside of the UAE. Is there going to be a boom in education around this kind of technology in the UAE? And what other industries are likely to grow around it?
So, as I mentioned earlier, the space program was always an accelerator for our ecosystem, S&T ecosystem, especially when it comes to critical and emerging technologies, which is basically the future of the economies, of the social structure, what's going to influence the social structure in the future and impact the way that we live and the quality of life that we'll have on Earth. So it's about building those set of skills. So the thing about the impact that this mission created, or at least how it's influenced the UAE as a whole, is beyond just, again, the science and tech ecosystem. It's beyond our economic kind of, sector. It also goes into our foreign policy, and this is why now currently I'm based in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, focused on emerging critical technologies and advanced technologies, to kind of replicate that model and have it applied in different areas that are critical to the UAE. Secretary Kerry mentioned earlier, fusion technologies, quantum, genomes. Those are all kind of critical and emerging technologies that are going to shape the future of humanity. So the same team, again, that was involved in setting up the space program, now is also involved in setting our diplomatic kind of vertical when it comes to science and tech diplomacy. And one thing I think that's very critical for us to understand, and we have to look at it differently, and that's where soft power comes also into play, that we need to discuss as early as possible, is that when it comes to technology, or let's say in the past, when you looked at politics or diplomacy or international relationship, it used to be either pure politics and defense and security. That's what shaped diplomacy and international relations. During the Cold War, or after the Cold War, sorry, that changed. We had politics, defense, security, plus economics. Today, we have a fourth element, and that's technology. So going from a purely political kind of setup or sphere into a geo-economic sphere, then transitioning into a geotech sphere, is how things are evolving in geopolitics and the geopolitical landscape. So the thing that we need to understand is that the future of geopolitics will be shaped also by technology, and we're seeing it happening today. But what has changed, though, is the elements, the foundations, and the inputs to that ecosystem has changed. And I don't know if everyone has realized that or not. Countries, I guess the rule of thumb is all countries, when they function or they conduct business internationally, it's about their national interest. Their national interest dictates how they actually, what their policy position is, what collaborations they go into, and how they work together. But because of the emerging technology and developments that are happening in this area, the approach has changed a lot. Now we have sort of the first category, the superpowers, and the way they're going to work together because of technology and how it's going to be defined is very different than what it used to be in the past. And then you have the rest of the world that has to find a way to work with the superpowers and how to balance things out and serve their national interest. And then there's another element, which is going back to the point of the kind of the foundation of the ecosystem. The S&T ecosystem has changed in the sense that before it was purely states dealing with advanced technology and advanced science and advanced research. Today we have non-state actors. In the past, there was civilian military technology. Today, everything is dual use. In the past, it was easy for us to come and say, regardless of the politics, scientists can work together. And we've seen it happening with the International Space Station, within the nuclear programs, how researchers and scientists played a big role in converging the discussions politically. That's not the case. Technology is a political tool today. Countries might weaponize it, countries might use it for international collaboration, but we cannot approach it the way that we've approached it in the past. And soft power is usually, or soft power tools are usually means and ways to try to converge these discussions and have kind of the confidence built between nations, the trust being built between nations, and coming up with measures and safeguards that actually will promote responsible behavior and build trust between nations to work together. Especially when you have, as I said, the superpowers versus the rest of the world and us having to navigate that.
I mean, two aspects of it really intrigue me. One is that the UAE has quite a small population, and within its total population, it has quite a small Emirati population. So therefore, limits on manpower must be quite an issue. Is the intention to make the UAE a magnet for the brightest engineers in the world to come and study there and stay there? That would be question one. And the second one would be, it's a very entrepreneurial place. And if you look at people like Elon Musk, they have turned space exploration into a business. Are we going to see the likes of Elon Musk, probably not him, but in the UAE, building businesses?
So regarding your first question about talent, yes, definitely we want talent. Like I think any thriving nation that has a vision to play a role in the global system, especially when it comes to social development, economic development, sustainable development, then yes, we want that. But also we believe in working together. The thing that space program made us understand very well, and we've demonstrated that through the Emirates Mars mission, space is difficult. Space is risky. Space is expensive. Because we didn't compete, we cooperated, we were able to deliver in 6 years. Because we worked with others and we didn't start from scratch, we delivered a mission for a fraction of the cost that others would actually deliver it for. And I think that's why it's critical for us to get the talents. But then also when it comes to having the Elon Musks or the Bill Gates or the Steve Jobs of the UAE, yes, definitely something that we definitely would like to see one day. But then can you guarantee it? No. What you do is you build that ecosystem, you build the environment, you try to actually bring opportunity and have that kind of come up. But then I want to go back to the point that you mentioned earlier. When it comes to actually the UAE and us, the citizens of the UAE being maybe a small portion of the population. For us, it's not a problem. For us, this is who we are. This is how we started. This is who we always been for us. So usually in other countries, when you have someone moving there, they have to adapt to the way of how things happen in that country. So they become, for example, Americanized or do the way that they do things that happen in Japan and so on. In the UAE, our approach is different. We tell you, stay the way you are. You staying the way you are actually brings value to us and makes us unique and different than others. So our approach is very different than others. And this is why also the way that we have our laws, our rules, and when it comes to actually promoting coexistence and acceptance of others and the differences are a little bit different than other countries. And this also affects the way we apply technologies and use technologies and so on, which, again, takes me back to the point of we cannot approach international relationships when it comes to technology the same way we did in the past. We need to have kind of a better understanding of each other, better understanding of each other's demography, ecosystem, culture, values that has to be translated into policies and policy positions and also agreements or cooperation that brings nations together to work. Before, it was very easy to say, it's either this or that. Now you cannot do that, especially with emerging technologies.
It's interesting. I mean, as an outsider, I may have got this wrong, but the weather conditions and the general conditions in your area of the world seem to lend themselves to rocket technology and rocket programs. Are we going to be seeing launch pads in the UAE and significant developments of that kind?
So for us, as I said, our space program is a driver for our kind of bigger sector, which is the science and technology sector. So if there is kind of a need to do so, then it's something that we might explore. But then let's keep in mind, I mean, geographically speaking, as a geography or as a size of land, we don't have a lot of land. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of neighbors around us. So it's not easy to come and build just like a rocket launcher anywhere. So, and it requires a lot of coordination and so on. But am I saying we're going to do it or not? I don't know, honestly. The future will tell. And basically our national needs and our national priorities will dictate how we're going to expand in our space program, whether it's going to be through building more missions and sending them through rockets with other partners or building our own rocket. That I cannot answer.
Excuse me. So if we move away from the space program and talk more generally about science. Science, innovation, technology. Clearly, the reason America is still rich and buoyant is because it's really excelled in that over the last 20 or 30 years. Is that what you are focused on, broadening out the technology base of the UAE so that you become a sort of technology superpower?
So we want science and technology to be an important main player in our economy in the future. And this is part of our effort in diversifying our economy, moving away from the traditional kind of oil and gas being the driver of the economy to actually more diversified beyond just real estate and financial sector and so on. So it is something that we are very ambitious about, yes, and we want to be able to be competitive internationally when it comes to science and tech. But the main reason is to, again, improve the quality of life of the citizens and residents of the UAE, to have more sustainable development in our economic ecosystem, and also about addressing our national challenges and needs, especially given, as you mentioned earlier, it's a very hot region, so we have big environmental challenges. So it's hot both environmentally and also politically. So I think science and technologies could sometimes...
It was interesting talking to Secretary Kerry before, where he was basically saying that point about American engineering gearing up and helping to win the war, and the scale that could be achieved. The thing about the UAE is its ambitions are amazing, and it's gone from a very small country to really quite a big, sophisticated country. I mean, 20, 30 years from now, what is the ambition for the UAE? I mean, here in the UK, our ambitions tend to be quite constrained. What is the ambition for the UAE?
So our ambition is to have stability in the region. Our ambition is to have the highest quality of life, like I said, for the citizens and the residents of the UAE. Our ambition is to be competitive economically, globally, not because of our oil and gas, but because of the knowledge of our talent and the skills that we have in the UAE. And this is something that we're thriving towards, and we'll continue to work towards that.
And are you involved in what he was talking about, the application of technology to the sustainability challenge? Is that one of your priorities as the minister?
No, I have my colleague and peer, Abdullah Bil-Ula, who is actually focused on that vertical, but we do work with them closely, especially when it comes to the technology side of things, or research and development. So we work closely with that vertical within our Ministry of Foreign Affairs to actually support collaboration in research and development areas related to technologies related to climate and sustainable development.
Because I'm aware that ADNOC has spun off Excellency, which is a very ambitious program, and that is geared towards sustainable energy, not towards fossil fuel energy, and there are many different aspects of that. Is that going to be a nexus for a lot of things happening, do you think, in the country?
So we have ADNOC through their initiative, we had G42, we have M42, we have different players, we have the Mohammed bin Zayed University for AI, that actually are playing a role in kind of, building capacity and capability in that area. So some are focused on health and the use of AI in health. Some are focused on energy and the use of AI in energy. Some are just focused purely on developing applications that could improve our quality of life. So it's a kind of a sector that has multiple stakeholders in it, and each stakeholder is playing a role in that. But then again, it's not about us. It's about the story of the UAE. And for us, stability in the region is very critical. And through our science and technology activities and our space program and our activities in emerging technologies, we are also not just trying to help ourselves as nations to grow, but also try to influence and change the mindset of the youth in the region. If I may, David, like in 2014, when the UAE announced the Emirates Mars mission, at that time, the region was going through a really tough time. We had a region that was quite fragmented. We had a region that we had extremists and extremism going around with Daesh, ISIS, and similar groups taking over parts of the region. We had youth joining the wrong groups from the region. We had youth being innovative and creative in the wrong way, putting their energy in the wrong areas. So that was the message of the UAE also through the Emirates Mars mission, is, again, look at the UAE. If we're able to reach Mars in less than 50 years, a country that has nationalities from all around the world, people from different backgrounds, different beliefs, all live together. And everyone contributed in building the nation and putting our name around Mars, then you can do much more. Mm-hmm. A region that more than almost 1,000 years ago used to be the land of civilization, in which you had people of different backgrounds, again, living together and helped in building the region. The moment we stopped accepting differences, the moment we stopped generating knowledge, as a region, we started moving backwards. So the message of the UAE through the Emirates Mars mission and through its space program and its science and technology effort also is put your energy in the right place, build your nations, accept differences, coexist, and be more integrated into the global system. So
I'm conscious we're at the end of our time, but I've got one last question I'd like to ask you. Yesterday we had a workshop where the First Ladies and Gents group, who are the spouses of leaders of countries, come over here and we sit around and talk about an issue. And their theme this year is gender equality and using gender empowerment issues, particularly educating women, to actually grow economies and make them more successful. I know that the UAE has been pursuing that quite actively. Could you tell us something about the way women are now being brought into the workforce?
So if I may, okay, I'm very biased towards the Emirates Mars mission, obviously, so I'm going to go back to the Emirates Mars mission and speak about it. 42% of the team members in the Emirates Mars mission, of the Emirati team members, were women. 50% of the leadership in the Emirates Mars mission were women. I had 8 deputies, and 4 of them were women. Oh. One of them was Minister Sarah Al-Amiri, who is currently the Minister of Science and of Education in the UAE. And every single one of them earned that position or were part of that team, not because they were women, because they earned it. So in the UAE, we give opportunity to everyone. In the UAE, when it comes to equality and equal opportunity, it's about your performance. It's about what you deliver. And I think the UAE has demonstrated over and over that we're able to do that, you know, and bring opportunities to everyone, regardless of their gender. And if you look at our also ministries or the ministers or the members of the cabinet, 50% of them almost are women. So that's something that we are very proud of, to be honest, and something that I think that we were able to achieve, again, because women and girls have been a priority for us, because when it comes to education, the opportunity is given to everyone, and again, regardless of your nationalities also.
It's interesting, really. I mean, there's a sort of residual arrogance, I suppose, in parts of the world that developing countries are not going to be able to do it as well. But the thing that I always find when I come to the UAE is just nothing is impossible. And I think that's actually your slogan that you use at Davos. The impossible is possible, yeah. Which I find very inspiring. And I think, you know, I know Singapore very well, and a lot of people have said the UAE is the new Singapore. And I think what you've demonstrated today is why that's the case. It clearly is.
I think UAE is the UAE, and I think our model is unique. And I think we'd like to share that model with the rest of the world and help everyone learn from it.
Very well said.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.